All right, welcome back, beautiful souls. This is Soldier of Light reporting for duty, and just have an awesome guest today. I have Lance with me from Ascent Nutrition. Hello, Lance. How are you doing today?
Hey, Jason. I'm great. How are you today, man?
I'm doing awesome. I'm living the dream, man. Living the dream. So, I appreciate you taking time today to kind of sit with me and do a quick interview. I know you're a busy guy, and there's constantly people probably just beating down your door for interviews and things like that. It's amazing. You've been on shows as Michael Jaco, and all these big shows, and you're blessing us with my show. So I really appreciate you coming on today. So the purpose of this quick interview, it's not going to be a real long, in-depth one, but just enough to kind of get your name out there as well, and just kind of learn a little bit more about you. And so, what I mainly want to do, I know, like most people have probably been doing with you in your interviews, just kind of touch a little bit about who you are. And actually, I want to know what makes you tick, like in general, like what are things that are like that really inspire you, like bring you joy, and what are some things like that you see or throughout your journey that are just really don't resonate with you, and just have a real, like, not a good effect on your soul. Like, what are things that bother you that you've seen throughout your time? And I'll kind of lead into the next questions as we go. So I just want to see what makes you tick, and what are beautiful things you love, and some of the things that you've seen that you don't love so much of.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. So, I've always been inspired by health and fitness and nutrition. And when I say always, I mean really the past 13, 14 years. And really just starting to understand how the human body works. That really is what makes me tick, is how we work, how the brain works, all the interesting, mind-blowing facts that there are out there about the brain and the body, and really discovering those or coming across them and applying them in my own life, for my own health, obviously, and then taking that and being able to apply it to a business to help others. So, really just understanding the secrets of nature is what really motivates me and makes me continue to move forward.
Awesome. So my question is, like, when you seen, so what made you? I know you said you were always interested in, but was there an event that came up in your life, or did you have an ill relative or something that came up that says, you know what, this is, let me look into this. I need to look more into something. Is there alternatives to some of these things that I'm seeing? So what was it that kind of springboarded you into the journey of being interested in how the mind works, the body works, etc.?
Yeah. So I had a family member who ended up taking his life, and it was, clearly a big situation in my life at the time. And it really made me start to question a lot of things and start to look deeper into life and the meaning and what the purpose is. And of course, how the brain works, how happiness works, what mood is, and how that's regulated with pharmaceuticals. And then also, started getting into a lot of the corruption that's been going on with pharmaceuticals and, the healthcare industry as a whole. But then really just starting to understand that there are natural solutions out there and finding those and seeking those out.
I got you. I'm sorry to hear about the relative that passed away in your journey. That usually is a big wake up call for a lot of us. That kind of make us. That's why I even brought that up. I felt there was maybe something that springboarded you into this. Um, Before you got into studying this, like, what type of background did you have? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, obviously it might have been a shift, or were you in the health field somewhat, or nutritional field or something, or did you do something totally different and then kind of evolved into this?
Yeah. So at the time I was in college and I was studying pre-chiropractic and pre-physical therapy. And
Okay.
I didn't end up doing either one of those routes, but I did study health science and with a specific focus on health coaching. And so that's the degree that I graduated with. And that's really what helped me to, take those next steps. And from there, I started my own health coaching business. I started working as a health coach for another company at a different time. And then working in the nutraceutical field in different areas to get a good overall perspective of supplements, nutrition, diet, coaching, all of that sort of wrapped into one. So, that's my background. And then that just naturally led into me starting Ascent Nutrition.
Okay. What was the first product, or what was, I know you mentioned like you were interested in how the brain worked and the body worked. So what was the aspect that I'm guessing, if I correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm getting from our conversation, possibly you started on the brain, possibly because of the history of what you just described. So I'm guessing that's how you started from that. Or if I'm wrong, let me know. That'd be amazing how you started into your first product and what you started developing into that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, Jason. So that is correct. The brain was really where things began. I remember I was watching this movie that I'm sure you've seen and many others have seen called Limitless, and
Okay.
with Bradley Cooper. And I watched it and it was very motivating for me. It was a great movie, obviously, and it was very entertaining. But um, I knew that the concept of what was being discussed and shown in that movie was real, which is, we can change our brain, we can change our mind, we can change our life. And I was already getting into that at that point, and that really just sprungboard me and catalyzed really my awakening, but also my motivation to keep going. And so from there, I found lion's mane mushroom, which is very beneficial for the brain. Found rhodiola rosea, which is a root that grows in Siberia, and the people there commonly will use it for depression, use it for seasonal affective disorder, for mood, because clearly in the winter it's so cold and dark and gray there that they need something to help them, and that rhodiola root really, really helps. And so I found those nutrients and then just started going down the rabbit hole and finding a lot more and really understanding how the body works in more ways.
Wow. That's amazing. And what I was wondering though, I mean, in all your research, because there's so much conflicting information out there if you read things, because as you probably aware, you know that the medical field, and I'm a retired nurse, so I can speak to these things very, very truthfully. And I've been an administrator, so I know exactly what goes on in a lot of these things. And there's a lot of red flags throughout my time that I used to bring up all the time and say, this doesn't seem legal to me. This doesn't seem like this is the best for what we're supposed to be doing. And I was always a squeaky wheel. And that was unfortunate that I felt like I was put in those places to be that exact reason. And I've seen how things have gone, and especially more than all the last couple of years. And I know that people are paid, obviously when they do all these studies and things, obviously they're going to pay these people who do independent studies. They're going to pay them to say, this is the results that I would like you to publish, and we're going to go along with this narrative. So I was wondering, a lot of these things, I'm guessing, with all the conflicting information out there, I'm guessing it probably took you some time to kind of cipher through a lot of that stuff of what was legit and what wasn't. And so I was wondering if maybe you can kind of explain a little bit about that, and then how you proceeded to even get it to the point where you got your first product out for launch, is kind of what I was going at, with all the stuff that you've been having to learn and research, and conflicting information's out there. And so I was wondering what that aspect of it, of your journey would be or was like.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question, Jason. So obviously it took time and just simply the diligence of continuing to research things and read and try to just discern between sources and methods and things like that. So, there's no short answer to it, but really it was just a lot of years of reading and research and testimonies from others, feedback from myself, and just, how to actually source things and, get to it. And so that really led me to a place where I was looking for nature's highest source of DHEA, which is the euthine hormone, commonly used for mood and happiness and outlook and things like that. And when I started digging, I came across something called pine pollen, and I hadn't heard of it. So it was very interesting because I've, spent a lot of time in this industry and heard of a lot of unique things. Obviously, not everything, and that was one thing that I hadn't heard of. And so I started looking into it and reading and found that, yeah, it is nature's best source of it. And then what's the best way to actually process it or harvest it? And so from there, we found how to do it, and just made it happen. So we wild harvest from up in Canada, and that's what Ascent Nutrition was co-founded on, was the pine pollen extract that we've got, the pine
Wow.
pollen tincture.
So you did the pine pollen. So the needle extract. Is that what you're talking about? That was the product, the sweet tasting one.
No, that's a separate one. We've got pine pollen, which is the powder, and then a pine pollen tincture. We've been out of stock on that for a little while, so that's why you
Oh,
probably
okay.
haven't seen it. But
Yeah.
it's that's what started, and then it naturally led into that, the pine needle extract, which is great for the respiratory system, great for cardiovascular, especially now with all the athletes that have just been dropping over. You
That
know,
poison.
yeah, cleansing the blood is very beneficial for
Yeah.
everyone right now. Um, so,
Wow.
just another cool product that we also wild harvest from Canada.
Sweet. And that's that. I was really amazed by that. Like I said, I've even as a nurse, I've never read anything about pine and pollen, obviously, because that's the information that you have to seek out in order, or something that you maybe have come across. It's like, wow, that seems interesting. Let me start to research that. Like you said, the rabbit hole. Once you get down the rabbit hole and you start to see all these little pieces that pop up, and you start to go off into that route, and I can understand that, and it's definitely, there's a lot of information out there. So the first one you put out was the pine powder tincture,
Yes, the pine pollen tincture. Yep.
and that's what the glycerin, I'm guessing, is what you use that with, when you mix the tincture.
We've got alcohol and glycerin in that one.
Okay.
That one's best that way right now, but we are experimenting with changing it up to just glycerin.
Now, awesome. So I know when you branched off into that, and then you started doing like magic mushrooms, and I'm going to bring up this magic mushroom thing is because funny thing is, I was contemplating on purchasing some of your magic mushrooms because Jason and Kristen say that it really helps them and it's really good. And I know that mushrooms are amazing because my wife is also very intuitive, and she got this download like one day, all of a sudden just came to her, and she says mushrooms. Start researching mushrooms, and she started learning all about these mushrooms, like the lion's mane and these things that she tells me, oh, look, there's this one, or if I touch this one and it bruises, there's all these different things that she's looking at, and something told her to go out to the woods. We live by the river in Illinois, and she goes down these little paths, and she starts picking all these tons of mushrooms, and she brings them home, and we used a little dehydrator, and she dehydrates them and puts them in jars. She labels them. So I mean, she got into that, like spirit is pushed her in, and she's a nurse as well, retired nurse. She was pushed into, so she goes out foraging. She was actually talking about going today again because it just rained a couple days ago, going out and looking for all these beautiful mushrooms that we get, and we put them on our pizzas, all that stuff. I mean, it's been amazing that everything we need is on this planet, and we're learning that more and more because we forgot that, like traditional medicine of in like Native Americans, things like that, even Asians. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they go pull from the ground, the earth or whatever, and they're able to make these herbs and these things that are natural for us the way they're meant to be, instead of these poisons that they put in us, and that's, everything is petroleum based and oil based that we put in our body that comes from a pharmaceutical place, and unfortunately that those come with a lot of side effects and a lot of poisoning to our bodies. And I can honestly speak wholeheartedly from my with the algae, that that's probably the product I would say the most for me. That's kind of, I feel like it kind of helps me focus a little more. Like what I can explain is, like I'm a thinker. I think a lot. I think and think and think, and sometimes that's a detriment. And I felt like that one has kind of calmed my mind down, and almost to the point where, like with spirit, I get all these information from spirit. It kind of helped me hone a little bit, like more of that skill, if that makes any sense. And I feel like that's something that's gone on. I also do the pine needle extract as well. That tastes. I kind of mix it sometimes if I'm not, because I put I do the one or the two ml dropper, and then I'll sit there and I'll do a little of the 1 ml of the sweet one. So I kind of mixes it so it's not as algae tasting, or like I feel like I'm like, this is tasting like I'm at the bottom of the ocean or something, something like that. It's what the algae tastes like. But after a while, you kind of get used to it, and now I'm just straight down the pipe, man. And that pine powder, I was really amazed. I'm like, because I'm used to like creatines and protein powders and all these other things that they taste, and a lot of them don't taste as good as you think. And I was really like, this is going to be chalky or something. Dude, it was gulp, 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 and it was down, and actually has a little bit of a fresh taste to it. Not like a plasticky from the container, or not like I was like, okay, maybe this is going to taste like I'm drinking a pine tree. Not even close. There's no, I honestly, sometimes I take a couple of drops and put it the needle extract in the pine pollen, and I'll down it that way just to kind of give a little bit of kick. So those are some of the things that I've done. But honestly, man, that pine powder, honestly, I feel like it gives me some energy sometimes. That's what I feel it does for me. And I'm going to honestly say, when Jason says you won't be disappointed, I honestly can say it's helped me in that area. So, and that's just the honest truth for people. I'm
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
blow smoke up your butt type of guy. I don't do business that way. But I can honestly say from my own perspective, man, that the products that I've purchased personally, they've been good. And I honestly tell people in the chat the other day, I'm like, I don't push things. I am 100% sold on these products that you're pushing out, that there's benefit, because I've seen benefit from myself. So that's what I put to people. And so it's been amazing, man. So I know you probably have some other, so another thing that I was going to mention to you, I know everyone talks about the pine pollen, and what I wanted to bring up a little bit too is your CBD oil, the CBD that you mentioned, and I feel like I can only speak for myself, and I don't know, maybe you want to speak a little bit about that too. Whatever you'd like to share, it's up to you. Um, but I know personally for myself as a veteran who had severe PTSD, and I was up every 10 to 15 minutes, fight or flight mode, no matter what was going on. And the moment I started, doing like CBD, I started seeing, and also I also take THC, which is also another component of, for people who may not know, there's multiple different acids, is what they call them, until you convert them. But there's many of them that attract to. We have systems inside our cannabinoid systems, and every one of our cannabinoid systems, there's different ones that we have: CBD, THC, whatever it is, that the receptors, and sometimes some people are more receptive in certain receptors than others, and so on and so forth. But I can honestly say, when I started doing the CBD to help me sleep, and then eventually into the THC, and the combination, my THC or my PTSD symptoms went down, things like that. So I can speak very highly of hemp, cannabis, whatever term you want to call it, because they're all, hemp and cannabis are all part of the same family. It just depends on the active THC component that you're able to grow. So if you would like to speak a little bit about your CBD and your full spectrum, and I know that there's, there's wide spectrum, there's full spectrum, there's different things that they put in these, and how you actually were able to develop your product, that'd be amazing. Or whatever experiences you have with hemp or THC or CBD, if you'd like to share, it's up to you. Totally whatever. I just figure I wanted to start off with that. It's an amazing product for me and plant. And I know that's something that God put here for us as well. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. I agree 100% that, cannabis is here for many reasons. And, the hemp specifically it can be used in so many different ways. And just like you said, we can use the full spectrum hemp oil. And so what we've done is we're doing full spectrum. And what that means is it's all the different compounds that are within the plant. We're taking the full spectrum of it. So how we differentiate, though, from the very beginning is that our strain of hemp is referenced by the National Center for Biotechnology Information. This is NCBI or PubMed.
Sure.
And they reference it as the gold standard in hemp genome sequencing. So it's an amazing strain of hemp that only we have access to. And, they've genomically tested it in some ways that are very cool, and it shows what we've got. And then from there, we also, differentiate in that we're not using CO2 or hexane to extract. Organic coconut oil MCT, and we gently warm it up, and then we literally just press out all the different phytocannabinoids and all the terpenes, all the compounds, and it leaves us with this amazing, beautiful product at the end that so many people benefit from. And it really is a very strong product. It does have, small amounts of THC, but not over the legal limit, and no one's going to get high from it. But it's important that the THC is in there because it relates to the entourage effect, which is, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, which means all the interplay of all those different nutrients actually acts more synergistically and even becomes even more beneficial than if you would just take those compounds isolated. So that's why, CBD isolates, it can be good and can be helpful. But you can go beyond that and getting all of the different phytocannabinoids. And that's what we do, 120 different cannabinoids in there on average. And we're infusing all of them into our product.
That's awesome. That's usually how I do mine too. When I get my stuff out, if I do any extracts or anything like that, I heat press mine with just heat and pressure. I don't use the CO2 extraction or the butane and where they pull all this stuff and they wash it basically is what they're doing, and then they collect that stuff and then the butane and the CO2 and all that stuff just kind of evaporates. But I that's awesome that you guys do your press. That tells me that everything is literally like no chemicals. It's legitimate as far as like people not having to worry about those things, which is great. I mean, you're right. There is always going to be a percentage. That's with any CBD product, anything that's out there. I mean, because like I mentioned before, hemp is a sativa plant or phenotype. So when it comes down to these plants, they're always going to be, there's always a legal, so people understand there's a legal amount of THC that every hemp plant, if they're going to produce it, that they have to meet that requirement or that threshold and under in order for that to be a viable hemp plant for them to produce CBD. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's just kind of what my research. I don't do these things commercially, but I just kind of know what I've researched a little bit about myself. And I know that they have to keep them certain threshold under there. And like you mentioned, it's not going to get you high or anything like that. But there's that little bit of threshold in there that every plant is going to have. And it's very, very minimal compared to some that are bred specifically for that, to have high THC, low CBD, or high CBD, low THC. So it depends on the breeding. And like you mentioned, you have that specific strain of yours that has been tested and tested and tested, and which is amazing, because then all you do is just keep cloning it and cloning it and cloning it and cloning it. And then I'm guessing that's how you guys would do that, is you had a mother plant or mother strain, and you kind of continued with that. If I had to guess, that's what I would guess. So awesome. So I honestly, I could speak very highly of that. You don't have to touch anything yet, but I'm guessing you probably have some more products that you guys are you trying to streamline? Like what's on the horizon for Ascent? Like what is your expectation? What would you like for Ascent? Like what is your expectation, or not expectation? What would you like to what is your goal as a nutrition company? First of all, that's kind of what I want to do. And like, what do you see on your horizon, or some of the things that if you don't mind, like if you want some ideas, maybe you're trying to throw it around that this is what we're going to start moving towards. If you want to share that, totally up to you. But that's just kind of what I would like to know, how you guys are doing as a company. So.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So we've got a couple products coming. One very, very soon now, that it is phenomenal for detoxification. It should be within the next week. So
Sweet.
depending on when someone sees this video, it might be out. That's going to be our humic and fulvic acid. And that is an amazing product. It supplies voltage to the body. And so it literally is creating life for the cells. So it's really amazing. And, with that, we also have an additional mushroom product coming that's very, very rare. And we can do it sustainably and regeneratively. It's completely fine based on how we do it. And it's very good for the respiratory system. And there's some incredibly interesting stories behind it that, I'll share at some point once we release it. And then another product coming that's also supplying voltage to the body. I'm not going to share too much about that now because it's a ways off, but it's going to change a lot of things for a lot of people, because it's very, very powerful.
Wow. That's awesome, man. And I know and what I feel, that's what Spirit's telling me. I know that these products that when you put them out, though, you put the energy into these products, and I feel like that's the difference. And when you actually research, you put these things out, but it's from a place from your heart, because I know you want to help. There's a difference between somebody jumping in and I'm here to just make as much money as I possibly can. And those are things that will come for you. And I know that. I'm just telling you, Spirit, you're going to be very, very blessed as you move forward in this journey. But I feel like the difference for you is that you actually do this from a place from your heart. And when you give something or you put a product out, you're really doing it from the best place possible. Like as far as vibrational wise, I feel like you almost do like it. It's almost like a healing. When you put it out, it's almost like a part of you that you're putting out. I don't know if this is what I'm getting. Like almost as like a part of you, like almost like a baby. And I feel like you these products that you really develop when you put them out, you're excited because you know what benefit that's going to bring not only to yourself but others around you that you're going to help. And I feel like that's the difference for your company compared to a lot of companies out there, at least from my perspective. And it's been an amazing products that I've, at least so far, that I've experienced. So I'm anxious to try a few more of your products, for sure. And as far as alternative medicines go, I'm like, I just real quick before we go, as far as things go, I know that these aren't the mainstream. None of these things that we're talking about, none of this stuff is mainstream. These tinctures and these cannabis and these other things that we're talking about. I just want to mention to other people as well. I mean, this is a Tesla biohealer for adults, and I just got this yesterday with an anti-aging bed cover, and I shared with this a little bit with Lance before we started. And it plugs into the wall. The bed cover does. It goes right over the top of your bed, and it's got like nano silver in it and things like that. And then it actually takes, and then you plug in the cord that's attached to this mattress, and it grounds you. And I literally, they give you a voltmeter and everything, so you can test to see what voltage you're running at a high, and then when you're touching that, it grounds you out, and it removes free radicals and all these things that you've mentioned before, like with some of your products and what it's meant to do. But I felt last night, just from these alternatives, like, yeah, I mean, let me just try this, because these products that I bought weren't cheap; they're expensive. But I feel like I told my wife when I bought them how much she goes, "What? You spent how much?" But I feel like we don't spend enough money on our own health, and I told her that, and I honestly believe that, as because we're so worried about everything else, we don't spend enough energy and time and focus on our health and ourselves, as you mentioned, just overall how we function. And I feel like with just that alone, I could feel almost as I was laying down last night that technology was almost pulling things from me. And I could feel my body almost being pulled into the mattress. And my wife validated that too, independently on her own. And the reason what I'm saying is some of these things that people say, oh, it's quackery. It doesn't. No, I'm telling you, the stuff that I felt, at least I woke up today feeling amazing. I feel like regenerated. I feel like I'm mentally ready to go. I took my algae oil, like first as I got up, I'm pumped up, and I feel energetically like this is probably the best I felt in such a long time. So the alternatives have made me feel way better, because as a veteran, I used to be just pumping medicine down my gullet from the VA just to try to function. And I was on so many pills that would kill people. Honestly, I don't take anything anymore. I don't take anything for my stomach anymore. I used to have really bad ulcers, all that stuff. I don't take any of that anymore. I've literally worked on healing myself alternatively with all these alternative medicines and things. And for products like yours, it's been an amazing thing. So I'm guessing you probably have felt benefits from the stuff that you've tried as well. And like your trials or whatever you want to call them, or your the people that you've experienced these before you put them on market. I'm guessing you try them on yourselves, others around you, people close to you, and just to see if there's any difference. Is that how you before you put a product out? I'm guessing that's how you do your trial for things.
Yeah, definitely. I'm first, obviously, definitely going to try it myself and use it and see how I like it and find the source for it that we want. And then definitely share it with others, see what their feedback is, and go from there.
That's awesome. Well, like I said, we're about 30 minutes in now, so I didn't want to keep you too much. I know you're a busy guy, and so before we go, once again, I just want to say thanks, man, for coming on. It's been an amazing kind of getting to know you a little bit, and bounce some things off you a little bit too. And I know you have a lot of great things coming down the horn. I know Spirit has been telling me this, and I felt connected. Honestly, like I was telling others about you when they were asking about Lance, you know, like, and I told him, I said, look at his eyes, look into his eyes when he's talking. That tells you all you need to know. And that's a true story, because I know when I look at somebody, I look in their eyes, because I know if they're bullshitting me, I know if they're lying, or know if they're kind of weaving the truth with the lies. A lot of, I can tell you that from just looking at you. And I knew the energy that you were putting out was legitimate. And it's exactly what you're saying is what you felt, and is exactly what your spirit and everything was in line with that. So I just want
Thank
to say thanks for coming on, man. And anything you want to say before we go?
I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the support you're giving me and Ascent Nutrition and just everything that you do, you know, for the people that we're collaborating with and working with. Um, you're playing a very huge role in everything that's going on, Jason. So thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to put all your links from all your products. I'll put them in my description as well. So everybody knows Ascent Nutrition. Go check them out. And thanks again, Lance, for coming on. I appreciate it. And maybe we'll get to do this again sometime soon. Okay.
Definitely. Thank you, Jason.
All right. Soldier of Light,